Hey everyone, Dr. Frunky here with an awesome new unboxing video. I've been really excited about this one for a long time. But what I wanted to show you first was a few of my copper pieces of gear here. So one of my favorite knives in my collection has got to be this 0392 BLK that's been modified by Razor Edge Knives. This is such a cool knife, and I think that the copper and the black together just make it look really, really cool. I love the way that this is aging and patinaing. It actually looks like some of the copper is coming off of this clip here. But I do enjoy the way that that looks and the way that it ages, and it makes it my knife, and that's really awesome to me. Recently I picked up this Brian Fellholter Screw It. This is an awesome little tool that comes with some Torx bits, and I've been using it as my everyday screwdriver right now just because it's really neat. Someone asked me if it provides any serious benefit over the regular screwdriver bits. Not really, but it just looks cool because I love copper. And of course my penny, which I actually use a lot for opening pivots so that I don't scratch titanium hardware. But we'll go ahead and move these guys out of the way so we can talk about the main objective of this video, and that is to talk about this knife. This is the Jason Guthrie Scout. This is a really, really amazing knife that comes to us all the way from South Africa from custom knife maker Jason Guthrie. This is a really, really awesome EDC version of his first folder, which was called the Ranger. Jason was really, really nice to explain to me a little bit about his process, and it's really, really impressive. So before I get into everything, let's see what he actually has to say. So he sent some awesome materials along with the knife. Thank you for purchasing this really great knife from Jason, who's also a firearms instructor. He owns a shooting range in South Africa. This is the smaller version of his full-size Ranger called the Scout. It's 3.2 inches of full flat ground M390 steel. It's got a Reeve integral lock with his own interesting GTI lock. This is the Guthrie tungsten insert. It has a ceramic detent, and it's really, really nicely made. So he actually discusses that interesting GTI lock right here. This is the Guthrie tungsten insert, and it's an interesting material. It's tungsten carbide that's 90 Rockwell, and then he talks about how the effects of lock transition occurs over the life of the knife and why a very hard lock interface is important and how it increases reliability. And then he talks about these different hardnesses. So we see titaniums at 36, hardened stainless steel like we use in our blades at 58 to 62, ceramics at 80, and tungsten is at 90 on the Rockwell. So very, very hard material. He also says don't spine whack it because that could be problematic. So very, very interesting introduction to this knife. And I am absolutely honored to have the very first Scout that's been done in this very beautiful copper shred carbon fiber, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But let's go ahead and figure out what we're looking at here. So I'm going to bust out my handy dandy ruler. Right up front we've got about 3 inches of cutting length and about 3.2 inches of blade overall. The handle is about 4¼ inches, maybe 4 and almost 4½, between 4¼ and 4½ inches. And then your grip area is right at about 4 inches in length, so that's really nice. It's a beautiful everyday carry size. Let's go ahead and bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. Here's a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 right here. I can bring out my 0392. This 0392 is perfect in my hand, and the overall sort of handle and size profile is similar in a way. And so the ergonomics overall, I want you to just look at the way that the thumb ramps are sort of grooved right there. It's a beautiful thing ergonomically. I really enjoy that. Another knife for comparison, here's a Manix 2, also from Spyderco. These are some common knives that people might know a little bit about here. Here's an interesting knife that I'm going to have coming up for review. This just came in from my buddy Nick Shabazz. This is the Spyderco Sliver Axe. Here is a Kaiser Gemini, another small EDC knife right there. And last but not least, I'll bring out my Shirogorov F3. This is a almost 4-inch blade. So you can see that's about the size of the original Ranger. The Ranger was the full-size 3.9-inch blade. So you can see how much smaller the Scout is and how much more EDC friendly that's going to be. Let's go ahead and look at this knife anatomically. Up front, we've got a beautifully done, full flat grind, hand-rubbed satin M390 Harpoon Wharncliffe blade, which is really, really beautiful. I knew when I first saw this particular blade that that was the one that I wanted. He also offers a drop point, but I knew that the Wharncliffe was the one to get for me anyways. Now you can see right here the swedge that he's done as it transitions from the harpoon down to the front of the blade. And then if you look at it in this direction, you can actually see how he's ground those things, and it's absolutely stunning. The work that's got into this, the detail on the blade is amazing. I really enjoy the sort of organic shape that it has. It reminds me a bit of a whale, honestly, and that's not a bad thing. It looks like it's alive, and I really, really like that a lot. It's got a nice little harpoon area, and you could throw your thumb up there and get a little aggressive with your cutting if you really wanted to, and it is very comfortable. There's a little bit of jimping done right here, and it's got a nice amount of traction. It is not uncomfortable. That's really, really cool. He's done a great job with the sharpening choil, and the thumb stud is out of the way of the cutting path. So this is a very, very well thought out and well engineered knife, and it's going to work very well for everyday cutting tasks. Moving back to the pivot, interestingly, Jason chooses to put his knives on Teflon washers. Now, before you start bashing that in the comments, understand that Jason spent some time considering his options. He was choosing, he knew he wanted to do washers, and then he did some actual experimentation and some research, and he discussed this with me where he found that Teflon is extremely reliable, but it also has a lower coefficient of drag than phosphor bronze, and he compared it to, he gave me some values of 0.05 versus 0.17 in terms of Teflon versus phosphor bronze for the coefficient of drag. So he wanted the smoothest knife possible, and he did achieve it. So this is incredibly smooth on the Teflon washers. I had it to where it was dropping smooth, dropping shut very quickly like a guillotine, but I tightened it up a little bit because I really like it dropping that quickly. I've cut myself like that before, so I like a tiny hint of resistance sometimes, but that it falls smoothly, but just not dangerously. So that's really, really nice, and I'm impressed with how well done that is. The pivot is the only piece of the knife that he does not make by hand in-house. It's the one piece. Everything else that you see here is worked on by hand, hand-contoured, hand-milled, hand-ground, everything. The only thing that he uses machines for is to water jet the shape of the blade and the shape of the handle scales, and that is it. Everything else is done by hand. Now, speaking of the handle scales, let's go ahead and pay some attention to the copper shred carbon fiber. What a beautiful material. This is certainly my first knife with this, and I have really wanted to get one for a very long time. It's a fascinating material to me. It's got carbon fiber, and then it's got these awesome little threads or shreds of carbon fiber sort of laced in there. And the deeper you go into it, the deeper you look, it's going to be hard for my camera to do it, the more you find. From afar, it kind of just looks like a couple of orange spots, but when you get up close, you can see the filaments in between the carbon fiber pieces, and it gives it a depth that's absolutely stunning. On the back is some 6AL4V titanium, a beautiful frame lock, really nicely done. An excellent pocket clip for carry and use. It's very similar to a Spyderco spoon clip, except that it's stylized and it's on these standoffs. These standoffs are all aluminum, but also handmade by Jason in his shop, so very, very cool. The pivot has a pivot collar around it, which I think is really beautiful. That's really nice. And one of the most interesting things is this Guthrie tungsten insert that is actually hidden in there. There's a little rod of tungsten carbide in there that acts as the lock interface, and it's extremely smooth with no lock stick. So thank you guys for checking this knife out. Tell me what you think down below. This will definitely only be my first Jason Guthrie knife. Go and check his work out on Instagram at JG_custom. Check me out at Dr. Frunky. Click like and subscribe to my channel here. And as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunky saying, take care.